Mark, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
You're more than welcome.
It's going to be super fun.
I've been looking forward to this for a long, long time.
Yeah, same. And yeah, I'm going on yours as well, so we'll do the link swap and all that jazz. Your story is super interesting, and I'd love it if you can just kind of take us through it, and then we'll dive in at different points, and I'd love to ask more questions about it. So
it's quite a long story. It depends where you want me to start from, really.
Yeah.
But obviously, I come from a different era to what is around now, and I really wanted to leave school. School wasn't great for me. I wouldn't say I hated it, but I didn't enjoy it. Is that fair enough? I tolerated going.
Yeah.
I had lessons that I enjoyed, like woodwork, technical drawing, sports, all that sort of thing. But everything else seemed to be a waste of my time. I always thought there was always more out there in the world for me to do. So I thought, 16, I can leave, so I will leave. And I was told by my mentor at the time, although I didn't know he was my mentor then, that getting a trade will be your best bet. Whatever you want to do after that, get a trade behind you because you can't go wrong. So I became a carpenter joiner and did that apprenticeship for 3.5 years.
A carpenter joiner?
Yeah.
What is
well, like a cabinet maker, you might call nowadays.
Yeah.
So I used to make some nice furniture I used to make, but eventually I got wound up with the job because they got a really big contract for making these wooden trash bins for Walmart, or Asda as it is in the UK. And I was constantly making these, and that's why I actually brought that job to an end, because I thought, I can't continue to do this. There's more to me than that. And it actually pushed me out of that job, which was quite good really in hindsight, but disappointing at the time.
Do you think that's still good advice for people today in 2023? The trade thing.
I actually think, personally, and I think we'll clash on this, I actually think too many people go to university.
Interesting.
I think it's about 25% at the moment. Is it something like that? 20%,
that's quite high,
25%. Yeah. And when I was at school, maybe 10% went. So the best of the best went to university to do the jobs like becoming a doctor or medical professional like yourself, which you've got to do. I understand that, fully understand that, and that is correct. But what I think is a lost part of our generation now is the people that could have become plumbers, electricians, carpenters, which then go on to having their own businesses within those fields and growing those out. And of course, because of that, we've now got a shortage of those. And when you get a plumber in or someone to do any work for you, it costs you a fortune because there's such a big skill shortage.
Yeah.
So I do think too many go. So yes, I do like the trade route, and you've always got something to fall back on. And while you're learning a trade, you're also learning about life as well, because you're meeting so many different people and seeing how the world ticks. And I think that's great for setting you up if you want to go into business.
How would you define trade?
Trades, well, realistically, the plumbers, the electricians, anyone that does anything that takes the time to learn through a proper apprenticeship. I'd say that's really a household trade. So anyone that you actually phone in, I don't know, for example, tree surgeon, they cost you a fortune.
Tree surgeon?
Yeah.
What does a tree surgeon do?
Well,
like pruning the trees
like
and all that. Okay.
Well, there's quite a lot of work there. When you got as many trees as I have.
I don't have a house, so
you're talking 3 or 4 grand for a visit.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So skills like that, I think, are worth investing in. And I think a lot of people that do go to university, and please bear in mind, I'm not knocking university because it has its place, and 100% agree with that. But too many go that could make a really good career elsewhere, and earn a lot more, not start off with the debt that they incur by going to university. And I do understand there's a social element to university as well, but it's a very expensive party for 3, 4, 5 years, isn't it?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Or 6 years, I think. In
six years in the medical case, yeah. So would something like, learning to code and becoming a software developer through, without going to university, would you put that in the same category of learning a trade? Like, you've got this skill that's taken you a while to learn, and you don't necessarily need to go to university for it?
Yeah, I'd certainly say so, because as an employer, I always employ on experience as opposed to, getting marks from university or whatever it happens to be, or exam results, because I think experience for me always counts for a lot more than exam results.
Yeah.
Always thought that way.
Yeah,
so.
No, absolutely. It's the same for us. I think a couple of our team members didn't go to university. And I didn't even realize until ages after we'd hired them. I was like, oh shit, oh yeah, that's Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, it just seems a bit of a push way, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know what your parents were like, but I'm assuming.
Oh, very much academics all the way forward. It's just almost a given that you're going to go to university.
Yeah. So I think, is there 3 rules in your household? Doctor, lawyer, or failure?
That's the one. Yeah. Sometimes people put engineer in there instead of it, but like doctor, lawyer, engineer, or McDonald's, those tend to be the options that you have.
And we're not knocking McDonald's, are we?
Yeah,
Because a lot of
100%.
people have started there and done well as well. So.
Yeah. So let's say someone is, I don't know, 16, 17, 18 listening to this and they're thinking, I don't really know what I want to do. The default seems to be, well, for a lot of people, I'll just go to uni because, quote, it's useful to have a degree.
Yeah.
How would you approach kind of if you were advising someone and if they were like, hey, Mark, I don't really know what to do. I'm 17.
Well,
what are the factors here?
Personally, I would say, and this didn't exist when I was younger, is not necessarily a year out, but spend some time doing a lot of different jobs. Because doing a lot of different jobs, you do find out what you don't like. So we mentioned McDonald's there. So you could flip burgers for 2 weeks if you wanted to, learn the ropes of the McDonald's trade, then quit, then go on to your next job, learn that job, see what you didn't like from it, take the things you did, and then put them together in the third job you go to. So I think taking a year away to find out what you don't like is a great way to do things. And then if the choice is to go to university because you want to be XYZ that needs that, then of course you go. But the problem with going when you don't know what you want to do is that's a lot of debt. That's a hell of a lot of debt. And that debt at some point's got to be paid off. And you may never go into that job or use that degree ever again in your life. So it is a bit of a waste, I think, for a lot of people.
Yeah. Even in the UK, where some people would say it's not really debt, it's more like a graduate tax. Oh, it's only 9%, and you only have to pay it off once you're earning more than 25k or whatever the number is. Do you think the debt thing is still a factor that people should seriously consider?
I think so, because I think it also limits their job options as well, because most people that come out of university feel they're of a certain level, they don't want to earn below a certain level, and you are going to be paying it back 9 times out of 10. But you also job trap yourself to a certain degree as well.
What do you mean?
That. Well, most people that I know that have been to university that haven't got jobs are like, well, I can't find a job for my qualifications. And you think, well, that's because you've studied something you didn't want to study in the first place, and there wasn't any job opportunities for that. And whoever promised you that university course was going to give you a good living at the end of it essentially lied to you, because it's not there. But it is a business university, isn't it, at the end of the day? There's a lot of people making a lot of money, pushing a lot of people through, whether it's through the university itself or whether it's through the accommodation or whether it's through student unions or whatever it is. There's a lot of money being earned. So I can understand why people push youngsters that way, because in a way it is an easy option, isn't it? If you don't know what to do, you've got 3-4 years of, wow, I'm going to university, I'm working hard, everyone thinks I am, but then the reality will hit after that. So again, not against university before anyone feels that way, but I think a lot that go probably shouldn't.
Yeah, I think I would broadly agree with that. I think, in some schools and in some backgrounds, it's, in my school, like 100% of people went to university, and it was like really weird if you didn't. And
the same at my son's school as well. I mean, my son, every single person in his school leaving in his year went to university. He deliberately did not go to the open days of the university because he knew he didn't want to go. And if he went to the open days, then they would probably coerce him into wanting to go. Like, you can join this team, you can be on that team, you can do this, the nightlife's great. And he felt that it would hold him back. And I think that's the bravest decision he's ever made, because if everyone around you's going, you say, no, I'm not, you're actually the strong one in that situation. And he's now built, obviously, a business with he built a business before we worked together, but now we work together on YouTube and everything else that we do, and on the podcast Strike It Big. And it's a fantastic relationship because of that.
Nice. So you were a carpenter joiner you said for 3.5 years?
Yeah.
So what happened next in the career? At this point, you'd have been like 19-ish?
Yeah, 19, 20. Yeah. But I always knew at 16 when I left school I wanted to be self-employed. I'd done loads of different side hustles, although they weren't called that before. They were just
what kind of side hustles?
I used to go fishing, Used to catch fish at Dover, catch a train first thing in the morning for free, come back and pretend I lost my ticket, so very cost effective. Used to catch lots of mackerel. We used to take them around the house in the States selling them, which worked very, very well as a youngster. I used to buy and sell cars as well, so I was flipping cars. That's while I was a carpenter and joiner, so I used to do a car a week. I'd always buy a car that I liked, so if I couldn't sell it, it didn't matter, that would be my car, but they were always Escort Mark IIs. That's the car of choice, and they always sold. And I was buying them for about £300, selling them between 500 and 600. So you double your money for a little bit of valeting, and that's all it took during the week. And then someone would come along, we'd park it on a nice estate as well when they came to visit it, so that it would give it a little bit of kudos, and always did very well. So always done lots of side hustles. In fact, I got to a stage where I actually ended up selling all of my time, which I don't think a lot of people understand. But you know, when you're being paid an hourly rate at work and you're working every hour of the day, Saturdays I'd work part-time in a model shop, Sunday I'd be teaching people to fly model helicopters. You know, I'd actually got to the point where I sold every bit of time I had, and we went to fit a staircase on a customer's house. And I always remember it was a really, really rich guy, and I spoke to him and I said, yeah, how can you have such a great lifestyle? Because this is what I want. And I don't know if he laughed or not, but he said, you know, you've got to get your money to work for you. And I went, well, how's that work? So he explained, you know, about investing and having a little bit of money starting to grow in the background. He says, if you think long term, you'll do well. If you think short term, you'll lose your investments. He said, so that was quite important at the time to me. And at the point where you've sold all your time, you've got no other way of earning money. You know, you're done, aren't you? You're maxed out. So that was quite a good turning point.
Okay, two questions on that. So one is, were you not concerned about things like work-life balance and all that stuff that is fashionable to talk about these days and very unfashionable to talk about, kind of hustling and grinding and stuff? If you were selling all of your time, yeah, how were you approaching that, if at all?
Well, to be honest, I was never really too bothered about finding the girls. I'm not the best looking chap in the world, I understand that, but I was quite a cheeky chappy, normally had a girlfriend, and I didn't work hard at it. I had a girlfriend, finished with a girlfriend, had another girlfriend, and so on. So that's just how it went. And I think a lot of people do spend a lot of time on trying to find the one, but I always believe the one will arrive if given enough time. So that was fine. I mean, I had a good social life. I enjoyed what I was doing. And when you're, for example, because I love radio control model flying, and that's what my main businesses are, being that age and being able to fly other people's models and teach them to fly on their models without having to buy them, that was great fun anyway. So I was having fun, although my time was being sold. So that's sort of how it worked. But when I did meet the one, which obviously everyone hopefully eventually does, I did say to her, look, you need to understand I'm very selfish with my time. And she said, well, what does that mean? I said, well, when I have enough time to spend with you, it'll be 100%, 100%. If we're coming up to London or we're going out on a date, we didn't have mobile phones there, so it was less interruptive. And if you had a date for an evening, it'll be 100% of my commitment, time and everything. But in between that, you might not hear from me or you might not see me and all the rest of it. And she understood that and what the long-term vision was. And I think if you're honest and upfront right from the start, then that's good.
Fantastic. It strikes me that the phrase "selling your time" is an interesting phrase. Like, is that how you were thinking of it at the time, or is that sort of afterwards, as you learned more about finance, you realized you were selling your time?
I think it was afterwards. I realized that I couldn't earn any more than I was, because again, there's no more time in the day to physically do it. And I think lots of people get trapped by earning a daily amount of money, and they think that's what I am worth, that's the value I'm giving, so that's what I get. You can only increase that by giving more value, but eventually your time is limited. And again, we'll go back to the doctor analogy, because this is what you are. Even as a doctor, you can high earn, can't you? Very, very good earnings, but that still caps at some point. Yep. So let's say as a doctor, you do a bit of private and all the rest of it, I don't know, $250,000 a year, something like that. you're still capped at that. That's it. There's no more unless you make your money work for you. Now, obviously, I wasn't at that amount of money. I was probably, back in the day, I don't know, 15, 20,000, something like that, which was double what I was earning in my job. Way over double, actually. So what can I do? You are trapped, and I realised it, but it was explained later that you'd sold all your time.
I like that phrasing, selling your time. I think it's, there's that thing of there's nothing that ruins more dreams than the security of a monthly salary or a daily wage.
Well, it's a comfort, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think lots of people will moan about that they don't get paid enough, but they don't want to do anything about that. And that's the crucial point. It's that comfort stage. And when you're comfortable, why do you need to do anything about it? I'm comfortable. I can moan about it, bitch about it, whine about it, but actually I am comfortable. And that is a dangerous position if you want to be rich. You
had this conversation with the super rich guy that you were installing the stairs for. How did that change things for you?
It made me look at investing. What I would have liked is someone like myself or someone like you available to be able to look up and study, because I think YouTube has opened up what the schools haven't been able to provide. And if we'd have had financial lessons at school, I'd have been hands up to go to it, because I've always liked earning money. I've always liked, finding ways of making it. But school teaches you to go out and find a job to earn money, but it doesn't teach you what to do with that once you've got it. And I think that's where YouTube has certainly jumped in. And the whole reason we started the YouTube was because we were on a skiing trip, and we noticed the ski in France up on the wall there. And we were in a chalet, and I have told the story a few times, but we were around a table. There was 4 youngsters, and I say youngsters, 18, 19-year-olds, maybe a little bit older than that. And for 2 hours after dinner, all they talked about or asked questions about was business and finance. And I didn't know where the time had gone. I spoke to my son afterwards. He said, look, that was 2 hours. They were interested in what you had to say. I said, well, aren't they teaching this? And they went, no. So, I think you get to a certain stage in business where you think this is all common sense, common knowledge. Everyone knows this, but actually it's the opposite. They don't. And, they're eager to listen and to learn and to move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so you have this conversation as you're installing the staircase. What happens next in your life?
Well, I left work, started the business, and we're starting a business as well. Again, a lot of people turn off on YouTube when you start talking business because they think it's all complicated and difficult and hard, whereas actual fact it's the complete opposite. Most people I find when I talk to them think they have to know everything about business. They've got to go to business school or do business studies or go to university to study it, and they're the people to go into business. Whereas the reality is we're all winging it. I mean, to a certain degree, I would say you've probably done the same with this business.
Every single day is just trying to make shit up as we go along.
And you learn the lessons as you go on. And those lessons sometimes are hard learned. They cost you some money, but sometimes they make you a lot of money. But whatever way it is, it's a lesson, and you don't forget it because you've learned it yourself. It's not someone else telling you that lesson. You've learned it and you move on from that. And it's a great way to be. I think the advantage youngsters have now, which they don't really see, is everything's a possibility now. When I was at school, it was, what are you going to be? Well, I wanted to be a pilot, first of all. I wanted to join the RAF and be a fighter pilot and drive those fast blowtorches around the sky. But I got the bins, and obviously from there on, that wasn't going to be a possibility. So the only other thing I was good at was carpentry and joinery. So I stuck onto that.